No double chin coming this way.
I mean, the camera still could be a little bit higher, but
I can only do what I can do with what I've been dealt with. I have
I'm just
boxes
saying that
among boxes.
you should still invest in a.
I know I'm going to. This is obviously not. You should see what I've got. A yearbook. I've got no. How do I have 2 yearbooks? Oh no, that's my daily planner. A box full of flavored almonds. It's quite the setup. And I'm gonna get a microphone.
Microphone, eh?
Do you think like the headphones with the microphone would be better?
No.
No.
I think those.
I thought I was gonna cheat the system there.
It's like gamers wear them.
Oh, I could go get Hunter's. He's got the new ones, the little mic.
It works just fine. I mean, your headphones work fine too. You don't really need a mic, as I've learned.
Yeah, but it looks cool.
But it looks legit.
It makes you look professional. Ooh, nice work on your bangs.
I don't know. I still kind of feel like Garth, but it's fine.
Garth. Oh my God, Garth. Yes.
Right?
Does that make me Wayne?
Yes. Absolutely.
Hold on 1 second. My dog is getting into something.
Oh, I thought you were going to go get a hat or something to look like
No,
Garth.
but that would be funny.
For winning.
Get down. Oh, you found your treats. Oh, you little shithead. No, thank you. Go lay down.
Your mic is still connected.
Oh. Please.
Okay.
And we're back. You're gonna have like a good compilation. Compilation? Is that the right word?
You didn't do it last episode though.
Yeah, I did.
No, you didn't.
I'm pretty sure I did.
You did it.
With Masha? Pretty well, I guess you've seen it. I guess maybe I didn't then. I think I did it before you started recording.
Possible.
Because I did do it. And I was like, she's not gonna get it. And now we're like dumb.
But we are back. And
we're back.
We're re-recording because our last one is in the universe somewhere. It's not here.
Nope. So here we are, doing it again.
And we're going to make it super authentic. You know what the beauty is I don't remember half the things I said this morning. So to remember something I did last week, it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
But we wanted to talk about postpartum and hormones. And
tell our birth stories.
Tell our birthing stories.
Because they were very different.
They were very different. Yep. I'm sure we'll find the takeaways as we go. But I think I'm not even going to try and replicate like we did last time.
No, but you started, so why don't you do it again?
Well, I think going through pregnancy was the first thing that opened my eyes to getting in touch with my body, because up until, the year before I was pregnant, I was on birth control. And I feel like you don't really know what's going on. Like, I think you definitely still have symptoms like PMS symptoms and things like that. But your hormones are definitely being played with. So I went off birth control a year before I got pregnant. And I had moments of like it's the weirdest thing that you spend so much of your life not wanting to get pregnant. And then the second you want to get pregnant, you're like shocked when it doesn't happen instantly, because your whole life was like, what is that from Mean Girls, where he's like, you will have sex and you will get pregnant?
Yes. That's what we were taught.
Don't work like that. And then you realize that you have like the tiniest of windows to actually get pregnant. And I think you gave me leftover ovulation sticks, and like those never worked for me. Like I never had like a smile.
I don't even know if I ever used them.
Whereas now I know to the day, like I can tell to the hour it feels like when I'm ovulating, which I just am still blown away that I was just so out of touch. And
do you think it like your symptoms not improve, are more evident the more babies you have? Or do you think we're just more aware?
I think I'm more aware.
Yeah, fair.
I think that's like anything. Like you, right? What's that? If I told you to find blue cars, you'd find every blue car, and then if I said
Oh,
what are red
yes. I
cars, you
hate
would,
when that happens.
So I think,
Yeah.
I think you're just more aware. I know a lot of women say like their periods are heavier after having kids. I didn't experience that.
Mine's
Um,
always been heavy, so
Lucky you.
here we are.
Here we are. But yeah, I think I just was like, I didn't know, when it's not surprising, like over your cycle that you go through different phases. Like I was clueless. I
Right.
imagine you were too. I think
Yes.
we all are. Um,
Because
but
guess what, people? We don't talk about it.
no,
God forbid Madre ever
she
talk.
probably
And,
didn't know either.
well, if she
And
did,
so,
it's best kept secret.
we were talking because our cousin was going to come on the podcast with us, and she
Oh,
didn't,
yeah.
but she inserts herself in a lot of the story because I remember when I wanted to get pregnant, she was like, we'll just have sex every day. And it worked like a charm
Yeah.
because I didn't know when I was ovulating because I was so out of touch with my
Yes.
body. So, got pregnant first time around, didn't have a lot of complications, but we applied to have a midwife because in Alberta, you can get them. I don't know what the situation is like now, but 8 years ago, you had to apply and you had to like really express why you wanted a midwife, why it was important to you. So I did all that. And it was great because I felt like in that care system, when you're pregnant, right, there's like a million things that, you're always getting checked out and poked and prodded. And they were always like, this is what you can do if you want. This is,
Mm-hmm.
why they recommend it, what will happen if you don't do it. And it was really felt like the first type of care I ever had that was informed consent. And, whereas before we talked about they put you on the pill and it's just like, yeah, take this pill. It's like, I don't know
Right.
why I'm taking it. I don't know why I'm taking this one.
I don't know what's in it.
I don't know what's in it. I don't know, I know nothing. Even, looking back, I remember learning that I went to the pharmacist and they're like, yeah, we have your birth control, but did you know you can get this no name brand and it's this much cheaper? Well, they don't tell you it only has to be 80% effective, which is
Crazy.
bonkers to me. And they don't tell you that. So anyways, I digress. Anyway, I got pregnant pretty easily once I kind of wrapped my head around it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I was really trying when you're supposed to try to get pregnant. And had a pretty low key pregnancy. Like, I don't know, nothing that crazy happened. I hated drinking that stupid drink you have to drink. I actually ate a donut before I went.
Don't do that.
Don't do that because then you have to do it again. Even that test, you don't have to do that test. And I'm the annoying person. I was like, both my labors went pretty fast. Like, Emmy top to bottom was like maybe 7 hours. But we did a birthing class that was about, I can't remember what it was called. I'll have to look it up. But it was talking about your hormones essentially and why you go into labor and how it happens. And that was so informative when I could understand the why behind it. Because with both of my girls, like in transition, so when you're at the end of labor, before you go into real crazy baby's going to come, you transition. And with both my girls, I got really sick. Not really sick, but like I was puking and like sitting on the toilet with Emmy. And had I not known that, I think I would have been really freaked out and I would have thought something was wrong with me. But we learned a lot about why that happens, what hormones are being released, even, why people get in bathtubs or, your partner, if they like rub your back for some of us.
Or
It's
don't rub your back.
hormones to get the baby going. So I had both my kids without any interventions. But again, I had pretty like low risk, fast births. Gabby was like first contraction at 3 p.m. and she was out by 5.
Yeah.
So
She couldn't wait.
couldn't wait. So overall, and then after, again with midwives, we get this incredible care where the same person who's been with you for your whole journey comes with you or comes over to your house to check on you and like check how everything's going. And they really check on you, they're not just there to check on the baby, which I loved. And
Do they do that for a couple of days or do they just come once?
no, it's like they come like quite a few times. And I think if
Yeah.
I was like, I need you to come again, like they probably would.
Right.
It just felt like VIP service. And they yeah, the big thing was like I wasn't allowed to go down the stairs. We kind of talked about that, like protecting your pelvic floor. You just get this pretty incredible aftercare. And then pregnant again,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times you get the same team of women. So
Mm-hmm.
I never, even afterwards, I know we talked about like the 3 days after, like the baby blues kick in, or I can't remember,
Mm-hmm.
there's like a name for it or something.
I don't know. I think it's just the baby
But
blues.
that's when you have the big dip of the hormones that
Mm-hmm.
falls off. And I probably had that at this point. At this point, I don't remember. I feel like mom always said like period. She's like, oh, it wasn't that bad. It was like period cramps. And now I find myself almost saying that. I was like the really bad period cramps in labor.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it is that cocktail of hormones that makes you forget how bad it was. So that you'll do it again. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it
Right.
again,
You
probably.
wouldn't do it again if you remembered that exact pain
Oh,
10 years later, 5 years later, 2 years later. I don't know if there's any sane human being that
no.
would be like, that was fun. Let's
That's
do
like
that again.
the animalistic side of us
Yeah.
that wants us to procreate.
But
Uh,
funny that you say that about Babs because we'd get so mad at her being like, come on, you don't remember. And you're so right because I look back and I'm like, oh God, I don't remember. I don't remember what I did yesterday. Like, I don't. And it is like, I mean, we're a little off topic, but really do record everything your kids, especially now where like phones are so accessible because you really don't, you forget. Even I didn't do the baby books. I don't have a ton of videos of my kids as babies, but I forget. I don't remember there for the only, I didn't get the first baby's first steps, any of that. You do forget. So I think, yeah, it's all those hormones. Thank God for pregnancy because you do it again.
yeah, you do
Yeah.
if you're lucky.
Right.
And yeah, so my birthing stories are pretty uneventful. And postpartum, like I said, I mean, it wasn't a cakewalk. Like it wasn't like, oh, I had a baby and it's great. It's like my Moira was my midwife, and she'd been doing it for forever. And I told you that at one of my last kind of appointments, I was like, "Hey, so like, when are we in the clear? You know, like when are we in when was it all good?" And she's like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "You know, like if I had the baby today, like we're good." She's like, "Oh, honey, you're having a baby. You're never in the clear." And it's
No,
so true. Is we do focus so much on going into labor, but that is a like a blip. And then you have to take care. You go home and you have this whole human all
you
of a
have a
sudden to take
human.
care of, and it's pretty terrifying. And I mean, I was really lucky too because I had you and Jess who both lived
Hmm.
here and had kids older than me. So I like lived through a lot of your trials
Trials
and
and
tribulations.
tribulations.
So I could learn a lot from you. And then I also, right, like if I was like freaked out about something, I could call you and be like, hey, is this normal?
Yeah,
Hey, you know, the baby spat up. Is this normal? Like I had that person to call to be like, you're fine.
right.
And it helps like Jessica's a nurse, so I instantly think she knows absolutely everything there is to know about.
And half the time we asked her about things, she'd be like, I don't know. Because she specialized in like urology. She worked on the urology ward
Yeah.
at the children's.
And even our aunt was like the charge nurse at the NICU. So we had some really good resources, luckily, in our
We did.
corner. And like I said, I came after everybody. So I got like the new stuff and learned from you. But yeah, it's pretty
Hmm.
uneventful. Aside from having two kids under two, which was chaos. But
Well, and you
yeah.
had a little problem breastfeeding right off the hop,
Oh
which
yeah.
you don't think you're going to.
The fact that they don't tell more, like more women don't talk about that.
Hmm.
You think like I thought at least going into it that you have the baby, then you breastfeed if you want it, if you choose to breastfeed, and it's you just do it. You
Right,
just do it. And that's not the case. Emmy was such a stinker. She just would like it took I pumped for a whole month
right.
before she finally decided to breastfeed. And even then it didn't last that long. And for some reason felt so guilty the whole time, you know, why it
Yeah.
wasn't easy for me. I remember Adam being like, the baby's crying, you're crying. Why are we doing this? Like, let's just give them a
Everyone
bottle.
just needs to eat. Yeah.
And I was like, it was like this. again, back to that caveman mentality where I was like, I have to provide for my
This is my
child.
job. Yeah.
This is my job. And man, not easy,
Well,
you
and I
know?
think too, like back in the day, like in the early days, that for a lot of it was a woman's job was to get pregnant, have the children, feed the children, take care of the household. And so when you can't provide for your child and you do as much as you're like, "Oh, I'm super easygoing and I didn't have a birthing plan, whatever is safest for the baby." You have a birthing plan. You have a situation that you want it to go a certain way you want it to go. And if it goes off course, especially in a high stress situation like that, it's scary because that's not how you envisioned. Maybe
Absolutely.
it's just me because I do not handle change well.
Oh, but it's
But
true. It's when your whole life you grow up thinking that's just what you do and you see it
mhm,
and you're unable to. And also, like at the time I had the juice shop and it wasn't my sole like job. I didn't it was this constant duality of wanting to be productive,
yeah,
but like I probably should have just sat on the couch with a baby on my boob,
right,
right? And
right.
so not being able to surrender to that was really hard. Like, not that I would go and do anything different. Well, I would, but not that you
Mhm.
can. And our experiences obviously make us who we are, yada, yada, yada. I wish I could go back and just
Know what you know now.
embrace it a little bit more,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
This is like okay, I think it's funny. Some people might think it's morbid. But when I had to go through chemo, everybody's like, just relax, let people do things for you. And I was like, oh, I had 2 kids and didn't let anybody, I had a
Yeah.
chip on my shoulder, like, I can do it without any help. I got it. Like, I am happy to sit here and to be waited on. Like, I have learned my lesson.
100%. You tell a mother to sit and just let people help, for the most part, they're going to say, okay.
Well, now, but not like,
Now, no, not when you first have the baby.
no, no.
No. And I think too, you're so right around that. Like, I did have postpartum after Hunter, and he was a horrible nurser, and we stopped nursing after 4 months. And I do believe that I really missed that bonding moment with him right after he was born because I was such a basket case and I was so anxious, and they really can feel that,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Well, and you even wonder hormonally what's going on,
Oh,
like
100%.
your hormones probably kick off your breast milk. I mean, for sure it does. So
Hmm.
what impacts that during labor or if you're going through postpartum, like, because then your hormones, I imagine, are balancing out properly.
Hmm.
Like, how are you expected to act like a normal human when absolutely nothing is normal at that point?
Well, totally.
So,
You're supposed to be gushing and gushing over this new baby and be in the best blessed place you can be. And, I think I got there by my third child. Even the second child obviously was a little bit easier, but I think my hormones were better than they were the first time.
mhm.
I felt less crazy. So that helped, but I had other challenges with the other two that were equally as stressful. So
Did you have a C-section with Nash? It's like I can never
I
remember.
did. Yes, I did. Yep. I had Hunter naturally, and then the other two were C-sections.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was not so lucky. I did not get pregnant easily. It took us 2 years. We had only been dating for 6 months when I decided to go off the pill that I had been on for 15 years, probably. And thank God, because it took us 2 years to get pregnant. I was a week away from going on Clomid, and uh, we were a month away from getting married, and I found out I was pregnant with Hunter. At one point, we thought we had lost the baby. I started spotting. Um, and we were living in Toronto at the time. And it's quite funny because I don't know how it is now, but doctors there, I might say this wrong, but they get paid by the patient, not by the visit. So they just ask that you try not to go to a walk-in clinic. But so that meant I could email back and forth with my doctor. I didn't have to go in for a visit. She could give me results over the phone or over email. And I remember we thought I had miscarried and I had gone in for more blood work to see where my what is it?
Oh God.
HCG levels, HSG, HGC. Anyways, what those levels, the hormone, the pregnancy hormone,
Growth. Yeah.
what those levels were. And I was sitting on a patio sipping a glass of wine and good news, still pregnant. So maybe that's what happened. um, my pregnancy with Hunter was actually quite normal, which I was a high risk pregnancy. So having a midwife was never an option for me. I had ultrasounds all the time. I have endometriosis. I supposedly have polycystic ovarian syndrome, but without any of the symptoms. And I have a bicornuate uterus. So my uterus is heart shaped. And so what happens is the baby grows in one side of the little, they call them horns. And at some point, the little piece of muscle that hangs down the middle makes the baby think that they have run out of room. And so you go into preterm labor. And that's what they were most concerned about with me. Before I had even gotten pregnant, the doctors had said to me, if you ever get pregnant, you'll be very lucky if you ever carry to full term. So that, you go into a pregnancy or you go into trying already thinking that and already under that kind of stress. So then Hunter's, pregnancy was great. Actually, I had great pregnancies for as long as they were. I think the worst thing I had was bad heartburn, but I never had morning sickness. I felt beautiful. My skin, my hair, everything was so amazing. Loved it. I would say it's probably the sexiest I've ever felt. And I remember right towards the end, I was 38 weeks pregnant with Hunter and I could not catch my breath. And so you call HealthLink. And I don't know, I found with HealthLink, I'd always kind of tried to avoid it because when you're pregnant, no matter what, they will always tell you to go in. And he asked me to go and take my blood pressure at a nearby Shoppers. So I did. And it was 153/93. And so I called him back and I told him that, and he told me to go immediately to emergency because it was very high. Went in, an hour later, they looked at me and said, we're going to have a baby. And I was not ready. I was like, my hospital bag was packed and all, but I just was like, no, I still have 2 more weeks. No, I didn't. So I got induced. I was like you. I got induced at 11 p.m. and by 4:30 a.m. we had a baby. I had an epidural. It
Which is
worked.
kind of crazy. Like I wasn't induced, and usually that is a tricky balance of
yes,
slowing down.
yes, and so can be an epidural. An epidural can work too much where you don't know where you're pushing, you're not pushing in the right spot, but if for whatever reason the induction was fast, and I remember laying in the bed, you were there, and it had been 4 hours, and I remember looking at the nurse being like, and again, this is how well you know your body, but
Yeah.
I was like, I feel pressure and I feel like I should push. And she looked at me in this way, and I can still see her face today. No, honey, it's not been long enough. There's no way you're in labor. And I had gone in there and said, listen, I have fast births. My family is known to have fast babies. Just a heads up. And she's like, okay, well, I'll go get the doctor. It's time to check you anyways. And sure enough, I was 10 centimeters. And I think I pushed twice and out he came. That was all great. Everything was great. I really feel the second he came out, I had mad anxiety. I cried every single day for about 4 months, every day, to where Steve, my husband, really was like, what is happening? In my mind, I was like, I'm going to kill this baby. Like, not on purpose. Like, I didn't have those thoughts, but I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. What if he chokes? What if he does? What if this happens? What if this happens? I can't save him. Who would give me this child? Please put him back. Somebody take him. I don't want him anymore. And these were the thoughts that I had for probably 4 months straight. I went to Toronto. He had a little low-grade fever. I stayed in the basement the whole time at my girlfriend's house. We went to Phoenix when he was 6 weeks old to visit Mom and Rick. And I made us sit in urgent care for 3 hours because I was convinced he had something wrong with his ears because he was eating funny. And that's how I was for the first 4 months. I remember you came over and Jess came over. She was a nurse, and I was like, something's wrong with him. You need to assess him. And she was like, no, because he had spit up. That's
And you
how,
didn't know
like,
how much it was. Like you were,
yeah,
or I thought it was too much.
right. Nothing was, what's the word? Like, nothing was normal for me. I couldn't normalize any thought in my head.
But also, how would you have the skill to? Because you have nothing to base it off. That's like, I
Totally.
think that was huge for me. That something like that would happen. I could be like, hey, is this normal? You're like, oh yeah, you're fine.
You're totally
By the
fine.
time I had my first, you had had your third.
Right.
Right?
That's
Like,
true.
just to put it in perspective.
Yes.
But you got to think, like, there's a lot of women who don't have anybody to talk to about it.
Totally.
And remember, when did we start the blog, The White Cradle?
Oh, after Hunter, after my postpartum, after my head had cleared, and I look, and what's crazy too is I wasn't going to say anything that I felt like I internalized a lot of that anxiety, which I still do to this day. But no one, even Steve, didn't look at me and be like, she needs help. And I really truly believe I did need help. I don't know if that means like a medical intervention or what the case was, but I was so out of my mind when I look back at it now. When I was in it, I was like, well, this must be normal. And I'm just this new mom and I don't know what I'm doing. And I wanted to be a mom so bad. So I was so disappointed in myself. I was like, I thought I was so ready for this. And then he came and I was like, no, I don't want this baby. I don't know what I'm doing. Somebody would do a way better job than me. Take him back. Well, you can't do that necessarily. So I had to but then I feel like one day I woke up and all of a sudden I could breathe again.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it was overnight, but I feel like it was a very short time of like being able to take that full breath in and being confident. And to be honest, it's probably when I got pregnant with my second, because
that was shortly after.
When I first got pregnant, even before I knew, Hunter was 7 months old.
Yeah.
So realistically, I really do believe that's kind of when I came out of my fog.
Yeah. And I always said, for me, it's that 3-month mark, and only to learn years later that they call it the 4th trimester, that the baby still thinks it's inside of you until 3 months.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if you have this hormonal or energetic bond with that kind of connection with your child if up to those 3 months.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, why aren't we testing women's hormones before they get pregnant, while they're pregnant, after they're pregnant? Well, we might know that something's out of whack, you know?
Yeah.
Because even then, a lot of times too, I feel like the knowing is so helpful. Just today, a girlfriend texted me and she said, man, I love the Stardust app. Because today I would have really talked negatively to myself for being so lazy, but it's the hormones.
Totally.
Not that it's an excuse for bad behavior, but it just makes you feel like less of an a-hole to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not just being lazy, you know. Like, I'll be a little more gentle with myself. Again, not an excuse to just be a potato all day.
Totally.
Like, also maybe just be a potato, and that's okay. Because you know, tomorrow or in a couple days, you're going to feel different. I think that's the biggest thing, right?
Yes.
If somebody had said to you, you know what, you just had a baby, your hormones are loop-de-doop-de. It's not you. Like, this is bigger than you. You're not just a crazy mom who can't handle this.
And I would have felt okay to tell somebody. I would have felt okay to be like, listen, and not then look at me like I'm crazy and should be committed, because that's how I felt.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that's if I had said something, the negative thoughts I was having about myself, I didn't want people to have those thoughts about me.
And the assessment they give you is like, it's not helpful. Like,
oh my God, you go in 6 weeks, right? Is it 6 weeks? I
can't remember, but
all I remember doing is begging the doctor to write a note saying I was not ready to have sex. That's all I remember
That's
about
an
that.
interesting
I
conversation.
was like, can somebody please just write a note that I can give to my husband saying, no, not yet. She's not ready. Because it's
Remem-
actually very terrifying.
Remember the Kardashians? And Scott Disick said, Courtney asked, she's like, is sex different since we had kids? He's like, you know how he talks, right?
Yeah.
It's like the same room. The furniture's just been moved around.
It was like, remember even your first poop?
Yeah, scary.
Like, I was so afraid I was going to rip from end to end. Like,
You don't know what's going on down there.
and
I don't want to look.
no one's looking.
I don't want to see.
No one's looking down there. Oh.
Good Lord. And the
So fast forward, okay, so get pregnant. Obviously, no problem this time around. We were a week away from going on Clomid. I did not go back on birth control or anything like that. And I get pregnant in second month. And now they're a little less worried because Hunter, besides, turns out high blood pressure, I had preeclampsia. So they had that. This is why they had to induce me. So second pregnancy, little less under the gun, little less worried because the first pregnancy had relatively gone so well. So at about 32 weeks, I go in for a checkup and I'm sitting in the chair getting my blood pressure taken and I feel this gush. And I'm like, oh my God. But when you're pregnant, weird stuff gushes out of you all the time. It's gross. It was a little bit more, but I was like, okay, whatever. I stood up to go to the room and I feel this massive gush that is not normal. And I start to panic. And now remember, I still have probably a 13, 14-month old baby with me at the time he had come to the appointment with me. And I go running into the room and I pull my pants down and all I see is blood. So I call you. You were the first call I made. Well, first I called out to the doctor for her to rush into the room. So she takes the baby. I call you. I'm hysterical. Can't talk. You.
history. I was at work, people, and my pregnant sister calls me like this. You come. I need you to come to the hospital. I was like, good Lord. I need to come to the hospital. I was like, are you okay? And I was like, this is awful.
I think that's all I just kept saying was come to the hospital.
I need to
Just
get
meet me
Hunter
at
or
the hospital.
something. Meet me at the hospital.
You need to come get Hunter.
And then I was like, looked at my desk. I was like, I have to leave. I have to go. I have to go. And then even when I got there, I met you at Emerge. Hunter was like sitting on your lap.
On the gurney.
Yeah.
As I'm being wheeled in with his car seat underneath the gurney.
I remember it perfectly because they were doing construction there. So it looked really
Yes,
like
and you had to stand in
post-apocalyptic.
this weird ambulance line.
He had that like neon orange little rain jacket on, little
Yes.
cutie. Yeah.
And so I left the clinic in a hospital or in an ambulance, sorry, and it was scary even at first because they were like, well, we can't take the baby. And I was like, well, we can't leave him. So we need to figure something out. So they went out to my car, got the car seat, put the car seat into the ambulance, which Hunter was just beside himself. He thought it was the coolest thing. And the lights were flashing. We were driving. And so I get to Foothills. They take all my clothes off. And the nurse, I wish I could remember who she was. She was so gentle and kind with me. And so you're scared. And as we're getting into the ambulance, I'm like, I have to call my husband, but he's on a flight to Toronto. So I'm going to call him, leave a message, call his assistant, get her to reroute his flight back to Calgary. And that I'll see him in, 7 hours from now. Hopefully the baby doesn't come. And it starts ringing and he picks up and he's like, hey, we've been delayed 3 hours. What's going on? And I'm like, you need to get off the plane. You need to get off the plane. This baby is coming and bleeding out. Like, we don't know what's happening. And he just hangs up. I don't even think he was like, okay. So he calls me back and he's like, they're turning the plane around. So I kid you not, they were at the end of the tarmac, the little tarmac thing, and about to take off. They had already been delayed and they turned the plane around. Big shout out to Air Canada. He He was super elite at the time. I don't know if they'd do that for everybody, but they did turn it around. They had a car waiting for him to bring him to the hospital. It was magical. They stop labor. I stay in the hospital for 2 weeks in antepartum, and that's where you go when you're in such bad bed rest that you cannot leave the hospital. It was horrible
Didn't
because I,
you, because you were there for so long, like a DVD player?
oh yeah, somebody brought me and I like watched the whole Glee season.
This
I
is
watched Friends.
before the days of an iPad or even
Yes,
home, really. That's funny. Yeah.
this is how old I am.
Wasn't
But
that long ago.
no, it wasn't that long ago. So I finally get sent home. So you have to stop bleeding for 3 days before they send you home. So you can imagine I've been bleeding that long. Sorry, people keep walking by, but my dogs are so tired right now that I don't even think they see them. Um, I've been bleeding for those many days that it took 14 days for me to be sent home. So I still get sent home, but I still have a nurse coming every day to check my vitals to make sure. And let me be very clear, baby in belly, still happy-go-lucky. He was very comfortable. Fluid levels never changed. And I will also add, when I hemorrhaged at the clinic, my water also broke. They had done like the testing and were able to see the
But
what's called
it's
the
sealed
fluid,
back up.
but it sealed back up.
This is a thing that I
Yes.
also learned whilst being pregnant, that like if your water breaks, which mine did with Emmy, it didn't with Gabby, it was a new time. That it's not a big gush, okay?
No,
If anybody thinks that, it's not true.
not like the
Most women's
movies.
water doesn't even break. But if it does, it was like a trickle. And then it would
Hmm.
trickle again because I didn't know, but I don't know what creates the fluid, but it keeps making more of it to
Hmm.
keep a certain level. And so,
Yeah.
anyways,
So
yours would have sealed back up.
it sealed back up and my fluid levels never changed. So I couldn't have lost that much
No.
fluid over, I think it was more
Again, it's
blood
not
than
like a big gush.
anything.
It's kind of just like,
Exactly.
just like a little, and then it sealed back up. I was like, oh, too soon.
Yeah. So get sent home, can't leave the house, can't do anything. Well, then the floods happen.
Oh, yeah.
And I am now have a letter from the hospital, like, do not assess, take straight to the hospital. To the patient, if you see a foot or the umbilical cord or a hand come out, get up on all fours, put your bum in the air, and wait for the ambulance.
Just don't read these things.
So I am freaking out. Like, you can only imagine. Again, keep in mind, I have a small child at home that I'm also trying to like navigate. So floods happen, road stage hospitals are closed, but the child manages to stay in there until 36 weeks. When you now you are coming over we're going to go for pedicures on your birthday, and my water breaks again.
Did
But
mom also have gallstones at this trip?
so yeah, so baby was transverse, so we couldn't try and move him because I was such high risk. So I knew that I was going in for a section, but my section was scheduled for July 9th. My water broke July 6th, your birthday. And
My mom was there already.
mom was already there
Okay.
because it was Stampede.
Yeah.
It was Stampede.
Stampede babies.
Also, don't have a baby during Stampede. That could ruin a marriage very quickly. So yes, I have the baby. He's perfect. He comes out perfect. The pediatrician was like, I think maybe they got your due date wrong. Obviously not 32, like at 32 weeks, he was not supposed to be born, but even because he was due July 28th. So he was still quite early. But yes, no, I got home. I'm sick. I'm not
Ugh.
doing well. Steve is out for Stampede because mom is home and she's helping, but no, she's in the basement throwing up. So I call you, Elisa, to come and get her because there's something wrong with her. And she ends up getting her gallbladder taken out the next day.
Really eventful.
So it
Yeah.
was all
That
over the
was
place.
not a fun experience.
But
They got it in right away.
I did not have postpartum with Nash. I felt amazing. He nursed perfectly. He was the best baby. He was so easy. That was such a, and to this day he's still my biggest cuddler. Like he still loves to
Yeah.
nuzzle in, at almost 11 years old. And so, quick story, fast forward, third baby. No, sorry, third pregnancy. I do actually end up miscarrying this baby at 11 weeks. Jokes on those doctors that told me I'd never have kids, because I had three and I only miscarried once. I got pregnant immediately with that pregnancy. It The whole situation was devastating, but relatively easy. I I started to miscarry Easter Sunday. I went in, I had a DNC. I got my period 4 weeks later, and I got pregnant the next month. So even though they tell you you need to wait 3 months, I was not going to listen
Why
to
do they
that.
tell you that?
I think for your body just to heal. I
Oh,
think your body goes through so much trauma. And I think sometimes too, a lot of women don't get a DNC. They let
mm,
it pass naturally. And so that can take a really long time.
yeah.
Um, so I get pregnant with Grace right away. And again, I'm back to kind of more of that high risk pregnancy. And I hemorrhage at 35 weeks. And in my head, I was like, oh, no problem. I'll go into antepartum. Everything's going to be great. It'll be fine. And the doctor looked at me, I think within half an hour of being, and I was very calm. Like I felt the hemorrhage happening. The boys were in the bed with me. At that time, we had a nanny, kind of just being prepared for the third baby, because Steve was traveling a lot at the time. And um, so I called the ambulance and I said, listen, this is what's happening. I called Steve. I said, okay, I'm going to the hospital. Meet me there. I was very calm. The firemen came into the house. I walked myself to the ambulance because I was like, I don't want my boys to see me being rolled out of here. I felt very calm about the whole thing. And then we get to the hospital, and within half an hour, they're like, we have to get her out. You have a blood clot, and this could be really, really bad. And then that's kind of when the panic set in. I was like, no, but I was only 35 weeks pregnant. It was too early. And so that's scary, because all of a sudden, instead of two doctors or three doctors, and it was like this with Nash too, there's 11 people in the room. And then the NICU team's coming in, and these people are coming in, and you're like, what is happening? So NICU team comes in and kind of explains everything to me of what's going to happen. And so she was born, again, a C-section. She was breached. Her head was way caught up underneath my rib. At least that's what it felt like. And she went into the NICU for 2 weeks. And that's a whole other story that, you have to navigate, and how much, especially if you have kids at home, how much time are you supposed to be spending at the NICU? How much time do you spend, and it's funny because we mentioned our aunt was a charge nurse at the Rocky View. And so my kids were born at Foothills, but Grace got transferred to the Rocky View after 3 days because she wasn't a high risk. And my aunt is the one who admitted her into the NICU. And she was like, I finally have a baby I can kiss and hug. And she left on vacation for 2 weeks the next day. And that's the exact amount of time Grace was in the NICU. But we got the best treatment. We had the best nurses. And so, yeah. And again, I didn't have postpartum with Gracie. I think I was too stressed out over the whole NICU thing to even think about myself.
Yeah.
I was more stressed out about her. But I had quite the journey. And after Gracie, my doctor was like, you're done. Your pregnancies keep getting worse and worse. And so they actually tied my tubes when they gave me the C-section. So
Well, you asked. They wouldn't just do it without asking you.
they pushed it. Not, sorry, I don't want to say they pushed it. They didn't push it. I didn't ask. She
Recommended.
recommended it. Yes. She didn't just do it without me,
I don't
you
think they
know,
can.
which is probably a good thing, because I probably would have had another baby.
You for sure would have. That's why
Yeah.
you have 2 dogs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It totally is the reason. So, anyways, I think it's crazy how different everybody's story is. And, you and Jess just seem to be the baby makers and the baby doers. And
It's just such an interesting time in a woman's life, I think. And from a hormonal perspective, like, you got to think over those 4 pregnancies, like, what the heck was going on?
Totally.
Like, what, like, you kind of get a period, then you don't have a period, then you're pregnant. Like, when you're breastfeeding, like,
Well, when you're breastfeeding too, like if you think about it, I was either pregnant or
yeah.
breastfeeding for probably a good solid 6 years.
And then you come out of it and you're in perimenopause.
Totally.
You
Like,
know?
thank God, like I was I mean, so were you. So it was just,
Yeah.
we were relatively young to, like, I think I was 28 when I had Hunter,
Yeah,
which
28.
isn't totally young, and 32 when I had Grace. So, but yeah, you potentially can start going into perimenopause at 35.
It's nuts.
So have fun.
Yeah. It just, like, again, though, it just goes back to, if you were thrown on birth control when you were in your teen years, like, when have you really ever just let your body do its thing?
Right.
And like I said, with pregnancy, that's when my spidey senses started going off of, how do I want this to look for myself? What kind
Yeah.
of, and I had, again, some really great people in my corner. Our cousin, who I told you made me watch this movie
Right.
documentary by Ricky Lake.
Oh, right. Ricky Lake.
Ricky Lake,
Who knew?
who saw that coming?
Plethora of information. That girl.
Business of Babies, or I will get it right. I'll figure it out before the end of this. But it was in the States, obviously, it's a little bit different because it really is, you pay to play. You have a kid and it can cost you $2,000 to $10,000. Hopefully you have insurance. But they want to get you in, they want to get you out. And if you start listening to the statistics of issues that arise in the States that don't arise in other places in the world where they have midwifery, and when it gets moved to the medical, it is mind blowing. So Jessica scarred me and made me watch that before I ever had children, which was eye opening, like I said. And then obviously with the emergence of more midwives in Calgary, making it more available. And then I have another girlfriend who's very passionate about babies and really, pumped me up, being like, this is your body. It is meant to do this. Trust your body, and be educated on the process, right? A lot of anxiety disappears with action and information.
Totally.
So
It's crazy too. And I think when I went off the pill is when I started recognizing that I had all these problems.
Because they were masked before.
Because they were masked. So, like, I was getting my period. So I went on the pill. Sure, I was getting my period every 28 days on the dot to the time because I was on the pill. The second I went off the pill, it was like every 50 days, every 63 days, I'd have a period. So that was the problem, is I never knew when I was ovulating because I wasn't getting a period when I was supposed to be. Now, fast forward, I'm on a 28 kind of / 29 day cycle. I don't know if I was like just like a ketchup bottle and you just had to bang the end of it and I just popped out a few kids and now I'm okay. Just had to clean the pipes maybe. I'm not sure. But it is really crazy to think what the pill, and it seems to be such a vice for people, and they just throw people on there for all sorts of menopause, acne, contraception, and without any like more outside information. And I think maybe those times are going to start changing. I would think maybe we'd see less and less women going on the pill.
Yeah, I think there's just going to be more innovation, you hope, in it. And
hopefully more innovation and less babies. Unwanted pregnancies.
Yeah, like, it just is interesting when you look at the history of it all. I think I said last time too that because we were talking about things as kids we thought were like rules or the law, but weren't, and we were just finding them out now.
Yes.
Like yours was open sesame.
Oh my God. Open, it's not open sesame, it's open says me.
And I refuse that one. I will still be saying open sesame.
Or hide a bed.
Let's not even say that story. If you know, you know. Can't tell that story.
That one killed me.
Okay, I'll tell the story quickly. The story is, friends, my entire life I thought hide-a-bed was spelled Hyda. Hida
So did I.
bed. I don't know why we thought this. And I was like, maybe it's because like there were animal hides. Like, I don't know.
No,
There
you just,
wasn't. I just thought it was a Hida.
it could never
Hida.
be that simple.
And then only a few years ago was I on some furniture thing looking for a new couch. And there were different types of couches, sectionals, day beds, and hide a bed. I was like, that's interesting. I wonder what those look like. If I was videotaping, like you probably could have seen the explosion go on in my brain, only to find out it was a hide a bed because you hide the bed. And now in our family, we call things like that all the time. Sorry, Justin, here I'm going to out you. We were at the Stampede and the 50-50 draw was going on. And I was like, wow, could you say it was like $80,000. Like, that's crazy. Could you imagine walking away today with 40 grand? She's like, what do you mean? It's 80. I was like, no, it's a 50-50. She's like, yeah, it's a draw. You win the money. I was like, no, you get 50 and they get 50. And I looked at her and I was like, hide a bed. It was a hide
Hide
a
a
bed.
bed. Hide a bed.
And now we learned.
Anyways, it
But
is
okay, my
again.
point though, back to pregnancy
Yes.
was you start to learn these things. The reason like women are laying down during birth. And the reason for that is because some stupid king something of the, fifth, Henry V or something, wanted to see his wife give birth. And that was the
Oh,
most
the
comfortable
six.
position for him to sit down. And even now, like for doctors, that's comfortable for them to sit down, even though the baby has to literally go against gravity to come out.
Yes.
Right? So you got to just start questioning.
Yes.
Don't just don't take anything at face value. You're totally allowed to say, well, why? Why do I need to do this? Not that I'm like against it. I just want to know why.
Yeah.
Give me the risk. Like if I do it, what happens? If I don't, what's going to happen? And then
If
I
I
won't make
take
my
this,
own
what's
decision.
in it? What are the side effects? What are the this?
There's always some sort of outcome on every option you take.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing, eye opener for me, was that I had a choice. It wasn't that, we're just going to, there's so many things they do once you have the baby instantly. And you can
Hunter
inform.
was a vacuum baby. I wasn't really given a choice. And I think in those scenarios, you obviously are going to trust that the doctor has your best interest. But it is okay to be like, wait a minute, what if we waited? What if we didn't intervene? What if we let it?
Yeah.
What is happening that makes you think we need to do this right now? What if we waited 10 more minutes? I even think that about Grace. Like, what if we hadn't taken her out right away? Like, what were the risks?
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard when you're in those situations because all you want to do is have a healthy baby and you're scared.
Totally.
So it's like, you got to do as much prep as you can and have an advocate for you.
Yes.
I found that even going through chemo treatment, you're so overwhelmed, like when you're pregnant, that it's nice to have, like, I would give Adam all the pamphlets. And I'm like, I'm not reading any of these because I don't want to know what could go wrong and get in my head.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I'm feeling through this whole process. If I start to feel this way, you can go and see if it's on the list. Otherwise, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
And he was a great advocate for that. But it is just, I think we're just ready to demand more. We want more.
And I think that's the whole point, even of this podcast is just start talking about it. Let's start talking about it and and again, if for all the listeners, if there's ever a question that you have for an expert or for one of us, just DM us on Instagram and we will get those answers for you. Because I think too, like I'd love on we could have like a Q&A section of this little podcast that we have. And so you can always just, if you have any sort of questions that you want answered or anything that you're questioning, let us know and we will find those answers for you.
It's what we're here to do. Get to the bottom of it.
Yes.
Because it's just so much to navigate. And again, there's so many levels. It's like from getting your period. I was talking to a girlfriend about when girls start going through puberty far before they ever get their period.
Yeah.
There's so many changes that, go through all that. And then you have your period, and then you have to navigate that whole jumble, and birth
Yeah.
control, not birth control. It just is, then it's like wanting to get pregnant, not wanting to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And
And I
then
think too, there's like, do this, but don't do this. But
yeah,
do that, but maybe a little less of that. And this person says, definitely do this. This person says that, don't ever do that. And you're just like, oh my God, can't there just be one answer? Because
I think we learned a lot with our last episode, and not a lot, not just from that one, but I when I was writing one of the captions, just there is this thread that's kind of coming through everything, and it really is. Let's just go back to the basics.
right.
I mean, us as women overcomplicate or overthink things. Never. We never do that. Yeah, we absolutely do that all the time. And so if we just like take a deep breath, get back to the basics, listen and trust our bodies. Like if you know that you're going through perimenopause and you have a doctor that scoffs at you and laughs you out of the building, you find yourself another doctor.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
you need to listen. You cannot be gaslit. This community is here to build you up, and we'll come with science. Okay.
Yes. We will
and
knock down doors.
I think that's an important kind of takeaway, is like, let's stop trying to fix us. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah, we just need the support.
We just need to know that we have the ability to live more optimally.
Yes.
So
exactly. And I encourage everybody, if you didn't listen to the last episode, to listen to it, because it was really informative. And, outside of hormones, what you should start with, if you're not feeling normal, Masha talks a lot about getting your gut checked and the minerals in your body, and all these things could, it could even just be one little simple thing that you need to fix. So you do need to listen to your body. And, I think sometimes our hormones are telling us 20 million different things. And so it's hard to navigate through that. But if something doesn't feel right, it's important to get to the bottom of it.
Agreed. Yeah. And I think pregnancy was that big, like, kick in the pants to get in touch with my body, with my feelings.
I would agree. I would think for me too, after pregnancy, I was very aware of my body and how I was feeling.
Yeah.
After I was crazy.
Y'all gotta get a little crazy sometimes.
The kids will do that to you.
Yeah. I think I had the benefit of letting you guys go through the crazy.
Right. I took on that. I mean, Jess wasn't far behind me, but
with the babies.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
all right. Well,
I think that wraps it up for today. I don't even know what we're talking about next, but
we're trying. We're working on a few things. We've got Megan coming back, which I think will be really great, because kind of what we touched on today is helps you learn to live with your cycle, and I think that's très importante.
Well, I think that's going to be so helpful, like working with it a lot more, and the idea that you also like shouldn't have crazy symptoms.
Yes.
That one is almost one I have a hard time to believe.
I need her to explain that more to me, because
like,
I don't know.
You're lying. You know what I think? Hide to bed.
All right. Well, stay tuned to next episode, and whatever that will be. It's like a surprise, like Christmas.
Even for us.
All right. Need a better